Hello everyone. So today's introduction is back with a new video on history, and we are going to cover NCRT Class 6 Chapter 5 Kingdom, Kings and an Early Republic. So let's move ahead. What we will be discussing in this particular video, we will be discussing about how some men became rulers, and we will be also drawing a difference between how it was different from Rig Vedic time and what happened in the later Vedic time. Okay, we will be discussing about Janpad and Mahajanpad. We will be discussing about the taxes and how the changes in agriculture took place, and a closer look at Magad and Vaji. So let's get started. So the very first thing, how some men became rulers. Can you recall from the very last chapter that how were the rulers back then? So the rulers were called the Rajas on the basis of their work. They did not had any kind of an army. They did not had any kind of a palace. They did not used to collect any kind of a taxes. Also, their son did not succeeded the throne just because their father was a Raja. However, something changed over the period of time, and around 3000 years ago, what happened is that uh, some of the rulers had the army, they had the palaces, they collected taxes, and also when their son also succeeded the throne just because they were the sons of the Raja. Also, in the earlier times, that is the Rig Vedic time, what used to happen is the people, the Janas, we know the people and the community were called by two names, that is Janas and the Vish or the Vaishyas. Okay, so these people used to choose their leader. However, later things changed. Now the rulers were being chosen based on the kind of big sacrifices that they used to do. Okay, and what sacrifice they used to do? They used to do Ashwamedh Yajna or the horse sacrifice. And before performing the sacrifice, what the ruler would do is they would let loose their horses, and that horse would run. And the people of the Rajas would guard that. And if the horse entered the kingdom of the other Rajas, and that Rajas they tried to stop the horse, then they were called, then they actually fought the battle amongst themselves. And however, if the Raja of the other kingdom did not stop the horse and they let it wander in their kingdom, that means it was considered that the Raja who let loose the horse was more stronger than the Raja of the other kingdom, and thus they accepted his autonomy and authority. So now they used to perform the Ashwamedhyas, and there was a priest, the Brahmins, they used to perform the very special rituals. And in this specific assembly of rituals, the Rajas were there, his charioteers were there who used to glorify him. Also, his son and his wife used to be there, and they used to do some of the minor rituals. There were Rajas from other kingdoms as well. They used to come and they attend the assemblies, and they were there, and and they presented gifts to the Rajas. So this is how the men became rulers in the later Vedic time. I hope you got it and you also understood the difference, how it was different from the early Vedic period and the later Vedic period. Okay, so there were varnas in the society, and how these varnas was created. So actually, there were several different groups in the society, and such as priests and warriors were there, farmers, herders, traders, staff persons, laborers, fishing folk, and forest people. And among this society, obviously, the society was hierarchical. Some people were rich, some people were poor. Mostly, priests and warriors were rich, and the farmers and traders as well. Others like herders, craft persons, laborers, fishing folks, and hunters and gatherers were poor. Now, the priest of that society, they divided people into four groups and they called it Varna. And according to them, each Varna had a different set of functions. For example, if the first Varna was considered to be Brahmin, and Brahmin function was to study and teach the Vedas and also to perform sacrifices and receive gifts. The second place was given to the rulers, and they were called as the Kshatriyas. These Kshatriyas were expected to fight the battles and protect the people. The third position was given to the Vish or the Vaishyas, and they were expected to be farmers, hunters, and traders. And both the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, they were allowed to perform the sacrifices. The last position was given to the Shudras, and these Shudras used to serve the other three groups, that is Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. And also they were not allowed to perform any kind of a ritual. And in this particular group of society, that is Shudras, women were included. Okay, and both the women and Shudras were not allowed to study Vedas, and also uh, these groups were decided on the basis of birth. Priests of that time decided that these groups that they have uh, divided into, they are decided on the basis of birth. For example, if somebody is a Brahmin, so if somebody is born into a Brahmin family, so that would they would also be a Brahmin. If somebody is born into a Kshatriya family, they would also be a Kshatriya. So that is how the priests said it. Okay. So the people who were included in the Shudras were craft persons, hunters, and gatherers. Okay, and also the people who helped perform into burials and doing cremation. Okay, however, this idea of dividing the society into four varnas was not very much acceptable by all of the people. Okay, many people did not accepted the system of varnas. Okay, many of the kings also rejected this idea because they somehow thought that they are superior from the priest as well. Also, some people said that this could, I mean, the occupation could not be the reason to do the differentiation between people and to create differences amongst people. Okay, and also some people condemn the practice of untouchability that was there. Because later on, Shudras were called to be the people of untouchables as well, and many people rejected this idea. Also, if you see this Varna system is being followed in a particular area and in a particular location. However, if you see in other areas of the subcontinent, such as Northeast, the social and economic differences were not very sharp, and also there was a lesser influence of priests. Okay, moving ahead. Let's talk about Jan. So the from word itself, if you can break down the word Jan Pad. So Jan means people, okay, and Pad means fruit. So the word Janpad literally means the land where the Jan set its foot and they got settled down. Okay. So the Rajas who used to perform these big sacrifices, they were recognized as the Rajas of these Janpads, okay, rather than the Jan. And also some of these Janpads have been excavated by the archaeologists, and it has been found that Purana Kila in Delhi, Hastinapur in Meerut, near Meerut, and Atranji Kheda near Eta, both are in Uttar Pradesh. They were the settlements, or they were these Janpads, okay? And also it was found that these people used to live in huts and they had cattle as well as other animals. They also grew a variety of crops like rice, wheat, barley, pulses, sugarcane, sesame, and mustard. They also made earthen pots. One there was a special type of a pottery that was found at this site was painted graveware. Can you think or recall from the last chapter what kind of a pottery was available back then? So there was red and grayware pottery was there, and now painted grayware pottery was available. Okay, so this is a painted grayware, and plates and bowls were the most common vessels that were made out of this painted grayware, and they were very fine to touch, and they had smooth and nice surface, and it was used on special occasion for important people to serve the special food. Okay, now moving ahead. Let's talk about Mahajanpas. First of all, in this particular figure, you can locate several Janpas and Mahajanpas. So here, as I have just said, Hastinapur was one of the location of Janpas. Okay, let's look about Mahajan. So slowly and gradually, some of the Janpads they became more important. Okay, and the rulers of these Janpads they became more and more powerful, and thus they were known as Mahajans. Okay, and these Mahajanpads had their own capital cities. And what they did is, over the period of time, they started fortifying their places with huge walls of wood, brick, and stone. And there was various reason why they were fortifying these walls or they were building these forts. First, that they were afraid, since they were becoming more powerful, they were afraid that the other kings would attack them, and thus they needed protection, and that is why they built the fort. Secondly, they thought that, and some of the rulers actually wanted to show how rich and powerful they were by building these large forts. Okay. And the thirdly, the land and the people living inside the fortified area could be controlled more easily. When they are actually being confined and fortified, they can be controlled more easily. And fourth, building such huge walls was required actually a great deal of land. So stones, thousands of stones were being collected and brought from distant places, and the laborers, all the men, women, and the children used to build this. And the Rajas then started to, to to maintain army. They started paying the salaries to the soldiers, okay, throughout the year. And I have already in the beginning of the video described the difference how the Rajas of early Vedic period and later Vedic period are different from one another. Okay. Now let's talk about taxes. So obviously these Rajas are becoming very huge and powerful. They are building all these forts. So they need resources. And in order to collect these, to have these resources and to meet their requirements, they started collecting regular taxes from the society mm, members. Okay. So taxes on crops were collected from people because most people were farmers then. Okay. And one sixth of that, whatever was produced by the farmers, was taken as a tax. Okay. And that was called bhag or share. Okay. Then they also imposed taxes on craft persons. Also, they were taken as a labor as well. And then thirdly, herders were also expected to pay taxes in the form of animals and whatever animal produce was there. Then they imposed taxes on traders as well, um, on the goods. And then hunters and gatherers, whatever forest produce, they used to collect. Then the tax was imposed on that as moving ahead. So, what was the major change in agriculture that happened during this time? So, there were two major changes in agriculture around Mahajanpat this time. First, people started using iron, okay, plowshares. And using the iron plowshares actually made it easier to turn the soil, and also more grains could be produced, okay, than using the wooden plowshare. Also, now the major change happened was that instead of scattering the seeds on the ground, saplings were actually grown and then they were planted in the field. So this was called the transplanting paddy. Okay, they actually began transplanting the paddy. All right, so this was the two major changes. Now let's look at Magad. Okay, in the very first chapter, we learned that Magad was a huge kingdom and it was present in the present day Bihar location in the southern region. So Magad actually became most important Mahajanpad in about 200 years, and many rivers such as Ganga and Son flowed through Magad, and it played a very important. I hope you remember that the tributary of Ganga is called as Son. All right. So this actually river played an important role in transport, in the water supplies. It also helped to make the land fertile, and the parts of Magad were actually forested, and then they were used for building houses, carts, and chariots. There were also iron ore mines in the region, so it was tapped to make strong tools and weapons, as we have already seen that iron plowshares was being used by this time. At that time, Magad had two very powerful rulers. One was Bimbisar and other was Ajatasattu. And they were by all means trying to conquer the other Janpas, okay, so that they can become more strong and powerful. And Magad had its capital. I have already told that these Mahajanpads had their own capital city. So Magad had the capital city Rajgriha, that is present day Rajgir. It was in Bihar, okay, but later on it got shifted to Patlipur, that is present day Patna. All right. Now let's look at Vajji. So Vajji had its capital city called Vaishali, that is present in Bihar. And in Vajji, a different set of system was there. If you can differentiate between Magad and Vajji, so the difference is in Magad, if you can see there are Janpads there and Mahajanpads, and people are there, rulers are there, and they are ruling those Janpads. Okay, and there is only one rule. However, in Vajji, there are different sets of people, and all these sets of people are called the Rajas. And all these Rajas are meeting together and they are involved in the decision making and they are all performing the rituals. Okay, so this is the major difference. So what is gun? You will come across two of the words gun and sanga. Gun is basically used for the groups that has many members. Okay, so there were guns. Ganas were there and each ganas members were called as Raj. And then there was sang, meant organization or association. Okay, so here is one of the conversation between the Raja Ajatasattu of Magad and Gautama Buddha. Okay, and he actually wanted to conquer the land of Vajji, and he sent one of the ministers to Gautama Buddha to take his permission or to get an advice whether he should attack Vajji or not. Okay, however, Gautam Buddha gave a very indirect reply and he said that if the people of the Vajis are following these sets of rules, so it would not be possible for them to actually conquer that land. And Gautam Buddha actually asked this question and he said that are the people of Vajis are frequently meeting in full assemblies and they are meeting and acting together? Are they following the established rules? Are they respecting and supporting and listening to elders? And their women are not held by force or captured. Also, the local shrines are being maintained or not by both the towns and villages. And even and the wise saints who actually follow different beliefs, are they being respected and allowed to enter and leave the country freely? So he said that these conditions, if they are being met, so they will not be able to actually conquer them. Moving ahead. So let's look at what is happening somewhere else in the similar time frame. So around 2500 years ago, there are people of Seth, okay, and they form a government called democracy. Just like today, we have in India democracy and in many other nation democracy exists. So all three men over the age of 30 were recognized as full citizens. Okay, and there were some people, however, they were not recognized as citizens and they were not considered to be the citizens. And so they used to come together and make important decisions. And the appointment for many of the positions were made through lottery. So all those who wanted to be chosen, they gave their names, and they were expected to serve in the army and the navy. Women were not considered the citizens. Many foreigners who lived and worked in Athens and merchants, they were not considered as they were not given the right of the citizens. And several thousand of slaves in Athens who worked in mines, fields, households, and workshops, they were also not treated as citizens. And here is some of the important dates of this chapter. So new kinds of rajas started to come about 3000 years ago. Mahajanpas started to be building around 2500 years ago. Alexander's invasion that is mentioned in the Nikaya, one of the important Buddhist books about 300 years ago, and then the end of the Ganas or Sanghas have happened about 1500 years ago. And about this invasion of Alexander, Alexander was from Macedonia, okay, and he almost conquered major parts of the world. And when it is being said, it is being mentioned in the Nikaya that when he came to India and when he was around the river Beas, his soldiers stopped. And the reason why they stopped, they said that we cannot enter into this land because there the people are very powerful and very strong, and they have a very strong foot from cavaliers out there, so we cannot actually go and conquer this land. So this is one of the mentions that is being mentioned in this Purana. All right, so that's it from my side. So thank you so much for your patience to listen. If you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much.